Good evening, and welcome to the 1-hour March Madness special. Please excuse our momentary interruption of sports from a regular daily schedule. I am once again joined by the esteemed duo of Ryan Haletta and Nadiri Morgan-Thompson. Let's get right into our picks. Let's start in the top left portion of the bracket. Starting out with the number 1 overall seeded Auburn Tigers taking on the winner of the playing game between Alabama State and St. Francis. Ryan, who's your winner of the playing game, and who do you have winning the 1-16 matchup?
Yeah, I personally have Alabama State winning this one. I think they bring a little bit more intensity than St. Francis does, but at the end of the day, it's gonna be Auburn. I mean, they're the number 1 overall seed of this entire bracket.
Mm-hmm. Nadiri, who's your pick in the matchup between 8-seeded Louisville and 9-seeded Creighton?
I actually have Creighton in that one. I know they're the 9 seed, but I think both teams are really close. And I think senior guard Stephen Ashworth can really have a defining moment in the tournament and get Creighton to win in that one.
Mm-hmm. Interesting matchup here, Ryan, between the 5-seeded Michigan and the 12-seeded UC San Diego. Who do you have in this one?
Yeah, see, we have Michigan going on in this one. I like UC San Diego a little bit, but I think Michigan coming off a Big Ten win, a conference win that is. They played decently well against Wisconsin, who is a 3 seed in this tournament. I think they got a little bit snubbed at a 5 with that tournament win, but they have a tough matchup. 12v5 is not always an easy one first round.
In the 4-13 matchup, we have Texas A&M taking on the Ivy League champ Yale Bulldogs. Nadiri, is there some Yale magic here?
I don't think Yale has any magic in them. Like Texas A&M, they're the 4 seed for a reason. The Ivy League people, they should probably just stick to like taking law school tests and the bar exam. I think Texas A&M got this one pretty easily.
Another team out of the SEC, the 6-seeded Ole Miss Rebels, will play the winner of the second playing game for the 11th seed between the San Diego State Aztecs and the North Carolina Tar Heels. Ryan, who's your playing game winner, and will they upset the Rebels?
See, I don't know how UNC made this tournament, so I have to roll with SDSU. They made a good run last year. I think they could still keep a little magic in that footstep there, but I have Ole Miss moving on. You can't bet against the SEC in the tournament.
Right. In our next matchup, we have the 3-seeded Iowa State Cyclones taking on the ASUN champion Lipscomb Bison. Nadiri, what's your take on this one?
I definitely have Iowa State in this one, right? Iowa State, they make good runs about every year. They have senior guard Curtis Jones, and I think he's bound to have a good game. I think Iowa State has it for sure.
Mm-hmm. The 7-10 matchup in the South region is between the Marquette Golden Eagles and a mid-major school looking to make some noise out of the Mountain West, the New Mexico Lobos. Ryan, can New Mexico upset Marquette here?
Yeah, give me New Mexico. I mean, I don't like what I'm seeing from Marquette this entire year. They've been so inconsistent. I don't know how they got a 7 seed. I guess because they're ranked 25th in the nation, but I like New Mexico in this one. 7-10 is always a rough one as well.
Shaka Smart in the first round of March Madness is.
He's proven that he's not good.
He's not built for March.
No.
A guy who is built for March, though. Our final round 1 matchup in the South region, we have the 2-seeded Michigan State Spartans taking on the America East champions, the 15-seeded Bryant Bulldogs. Nadiri, what's your opinion on this one?
I think this one is pretty easily Michigan State. They have freshman guard Jace Richardson. He had a great Big Ten tournament. I think he's going to continue it in March.
Mm-hmm. And that concludes round 1. Let's take a look at how the bracket is shaping up after those 8 games. Moving into our round 2 matchups. The 1-seeded Auburn Tigers are in action again, this time taking on the 9-seeded Creighton Blue Jays. Ryan, does Auburn's run continue?
I do. I like them over Creighton in this one. Creighton had that little edge in the 9v8. We saw an amazing season from Auburn, and I think as being the number 1 seed in this, I think their run continues to the Sweet 16.
Moving into the second matchup, we have the 4-seeded Texas A&M Aggies taking on the Big Ten champion 5-seeded Michigan Wolverines. Nadiri, who wins this Big Ten SEC matchup?
I mean, I have to go with Texas A&M here for sure, right? Michigan did not have the best Big Ten performance. They won the championship, but they didn't even put up 60 points. And they really won more because Wisconsin forgot how to shoot more than because they played well. I think Texas A&M has this one for sure.
Mm-hmm. In matchup number 3, we have the 3-seeded Iowa State Cyclones taking on the 3rd SEC team in this second round. Ryan, can the SEC continue their streak?
You know, I can almost see Ole Miss pulling this one out, but I mean, Iowa State has had a fantastic year. But do not count out Ole Miss in this one. They could keep this one very close to the end.
I think it's going to be tough to play SEC teams in this tournament. I mean, they got 14 teams in for a reason.
Yeah,
it's going to be tough.
They're no slouch.
Mm-hmm. Not at all.
And in our final round 2 matchup, we have the 2-seeded Michigan State Spartans taking on the upset-minded New Mexico Lobos at the 10 seed. Nadiri, does New Mexico make it to the Sweet 16?
No, New Mexico is going to go back home. You know, they might be able to go to Vegas on their way to New Mexico. I don't know what's going to happen there, but Michigan State's definitely going to go on this, face Iowa State and the Cyclones.
That concludes round 2 in the South region. Let's take a look at the Sweet 16 matchups in this region. Moving into the Sweet 16, we have battle of the SEC between the number 1 seeded Auburn Tigers and the 4 seeded Texas A&M Aggies. Ryan, does the number 1 seed survive this SEC matchup?
No, they do not. They do not, Kristen. I have Texas A&M getting the best of their opponent in Auburn in this one. I think at some point, number 1 seed luck is going to run out, and this is where it ends.
Nadir, do you have any opinions on that one?
I would disagree. I would say that Auburn actually, you say number 1 seed luck, but you don't become the number 1 seed off luck. You earned that, right?
No, I know.
And Auburn is a very good team. Texas A&M is not a slouch team, and I do think that Texas A&M may be able to pick up the upset. But senior forward Johnny Broome, he's averaging 19, 10, and 5. 19, 10, 3 with about 3 stocks a game, and I think he's might be able to take over and get them that win. Shooting 51% from the field. Who wants Texas A&M can guard that?
I know, but it's at the end of the day, it's March. Upsets going to happen all the time, and
we do have
you got to pick for upsets.
We have to predict upsets, but at some end of the day, a 1 seed is going to make it. Happens about every year. I think Auburn is a 1 seed that makes it far this year. I don't think Texas A&M is a team to knock them off. I do think that they get knocked off eventually, but not by Texas A&M.
Do you guys think that Auburn's experience, though, will come into play, or do you think that Texas A&M, just because they know Auburn, will kind of shut down Johnny Broome, for example, the possible player of the year here?
Yeah, it's hard to pick against Broome, but, in this one, I like Texas A&M. I didn't like what I saw, again, from Auburn and Alabama. Auburn just didn't seem to have the fight at the end, and Alabama took control of that game while that was in Auburn, too. So I think if Auburn gets flustered, I can see Texas A&M running with this one.
That's fair.
Yeah, especially because I think Auburn's they lost their last 3 games.
Yeah.
They lost to Bama, they lost to Tennessee in the semifinal, and I believe they lost to, I forgot the third team, but they did not go into March Madness with a bunch of momentum here.
No, and that's what you need when you're going in the March, is you need momentum. You need to stay hot.
What we do have to account is, right, that we have them predicting them winning the first 2 games. So they're going to pick their momentum back up. They're going to have something to prove. Like the Alabama loss, that's a big one, right?
Yeah.
But we have to remember Alabama-Auburn, that's an in-state rivalry, right? So that game is means a lot, but when they play other teams, they're going to play differently, and I think Auburn might be able to win this one.
It's going to be an insane matchup, and
I
think Auburn hits the roadblock with Texas A&M.
Yeah, I agree. I think Texas A&M slightly. I think this game will be close. I believe Auburn swept the season series, and it's tough to beat a team 3 times in basketball, no matter.
We've seen it happen though this year already,
Right.
but I think like you said, Creston's be hard.
Yeah. In our second Sweet 16 matchup, we have the 2-seeded Michigan State Spartans taking on the 3-seeded Iowa State Cyclones. Jerry, which school punches their ticket to take on Texas A&M?
I really, really want to say Iowa State, but it's hard to bet against Michigan State, right? Michigan State, they have the freshman, Jace Richardson, and I'm a really big fan of Jace, right?
I am too.
He shows explosiveness. He shows that he can score, and I think he's trying to punch his ticket to being a lottery pick. That's how you do it in March, right? And I think it'd be hard to bet against Michigan State. How do you feel about that, Ryan?
You add on a legendary coach in Tom Izzo.
Yeah, Tom
and that's
Izzo.
March. He's got a freshman guard. That's the experience part of it, though. But then Izzo picks it up with his experience.
I think that team is insane because you have Cohen Carr, one of the most explosive players, coming off the bench.
Right.
That's just how good
He's
this
not
team is.
He's not even starting.
Right. That's how good this team is. And you have Tom Izzo, like we were talking about. We were looking this up before the show. He has 56 total wins in March, 8 Final Fours, a national title. Tom Izzo is Mr. March.
Yes.
And like you were talking about Jace
Trademark
Richardson.
that.
Yeah. Like you were talking about Jace Richardson, he's only a freshman, and he's this good. That just shows you how coachable he is. That shows you his development is going to be fun to watch.
He's not afraid to step up in the big light. When the light's shining, he's not afraid.
Yeah, he had a great Big Ten tournament, like I said. I really think he's Tom Izzo's, I'm not going to say secret weapon because they're starting him now, but I think he can take them far if he follows what Tom says. Because like you said, Tom's Mr. March. They go far every year. It's hard to bet against Tom Izzo. It's hard to bet against an explosive freshman like Jace Richardson.
Yeah.
The Elite Eight matchup is set in the South region, so let's move into this matchup. 2-seeded Michigan State will take on 4-seeded Texas A&M. Ryan, let's start with your take on this one.
I think this is where the SEC gets knocked off on this. We have an SEC team going to this game. I have it being Texas A&M, but ultimately it's the Big Ten that comes out of the South region for me. Michigan State has proven that they are the team to beat this year. I think they could have made a chance for a 1 seed if the other 4 teams were not as good as they are. But this is just this insane bracket that you have Auburn and Michigan State in the same region.
Yeah, Nadiri, what's your take on this?
I mean, I agree 100%, right? I talked about how much I love Michigan State, their coaching, their players. It's hard to bet against them. I got Michigan State punching their ticket.
Yeah, I think it's tough for me because, like we were talking about, it's Tom Izzo in March, but Texas A&M would have that momentum going, just taking on Auburn. So it'll be interesting to see, but I agree, Michigan State, I think, will take this one. That'll do it for the South region as we have Michigan State moving on to the Final Four. Let's take one final look at the bracket before we move on to the next region. Now let's move into the top right portion of the bracket, where the one-seeded Duke Blue Devils will take on the winner of the playing game between American University and Mount St. Mary's. Nadiri, who's your playing game winner, and do they have any chance against Duke?
I mean, I think Mount St. Mary's, I think I have them winning, but it doesn't really matter who wins. Duke is going to smack them. Cooper Flag or not, they're Duke for a reason, right? This is not going to be the 16 seed upset. They got Con Knuppel, they got Cooper Flag. They're going to go far. I mean, it's not the year for upset.
Yeah, I don't have any words. He said it, so.
In the 8-9 matchup, we have Mississippi State taking on the Baylor Bears. Ryan, who do you have in this one?
I have Mississippi State. I have the 8 beating the 9 in this one. This is always a toss-up. I mean, they're pretty much, like, when you get an 8-9 matchup, those teams can be flip-flopped. Like, it's one of the most even matchups you're going to get in this whole tournament. And we have 4 of those, one in each region. Right. So I like Mississippi State in this one over Baylor, though.
The dreaded 5-12 in this matchup in this region will be between the Oregon Ducks and the Conference USA champion Liberty Flames. Nadiri, do we get a 12-5 upset?
I think we do. You know, I think Oregon, they didn't have the best Big Ten tournament. We talked all year about how they had an explosive offense, right? They put up 64 points when they needed it most. In Liberty, they have a good team. They have senior guard Taylon Peter, and he's a very efficient scorer. He shoots 58% from the field, 46% from 3, and he's had big moments in all their big games all year. I think Liberty can win and make the upset behind Taylon Peters. So
we're going to do this now, or do you want me to just like, I mean, they're 8-2 in their last 10. I agree with you that I don't have the best Big Ten tournament. Those 2 losses did go to Michigan State, who we have going to our Final Four. They have missed their March, all right? They have beat Maryland, Alabama, and Texas A&M, who we have beating Auburn, okay?
I mean,
they have proven with a deep run with Nate Biddle and Jackson Shellstad, with their production, they can go far. They have Dana Altman, who is 17-16 in 33 March Madness games, 1 Final Four appearance. I think he gets another one this year, and they're not going to be stopped against Liberty. This offense is high scoring.
The offense is fake high scoring, right? You call them high scoring offense. They put up 77 points a game. They're not even top 3 in their conference. What are we talking about high scoring? They're not even top 5 in their conference, actually. We actually crunched the numbers. So the top 5, you know, like, is this really a high scoring offense, or you just a little, you know what I mean? Do you just like the colors?
I do not
like the Ducks.
I do not just like the colors.
Neon green.
Okay.
That's what it seems like.
No, because we were talking before the show about these averages. They don't really mean anything when you get into March, because these teams, once they get on a roll, they can get on a roll. And
I know.
Oregon's one of those teams, when they are down, they get on a run, there's no stopping. We saw that against the Badgers.
I mean, when Oregon gets down, like, who are they going to rely on? Jackson Shellstad, he doesn't move me. 6 foot sophomore guard, 13 points, 44%.
Dude, that guy gets in a rhythm, he can shoot.
Yeah, when he gets in a rhythm, he's not going to get into a rhythm against Liberty.
If he doesn't in a rhythm, you dish it down to Nate Biddle. Nate Biddle's having an insane senior season. And you have Dana Altman at the helm.
Yeah, I think I go with Oregon here just based on their 2 losses only being to Michigan State, who, like you said, we have in the Final Four. Moving into another interesting matchup, though, the 4-seeded Arizona Wildcats will take on the 13-seeded MAC champion Akron Zips. Ryan, who's your winner here?
I have the Zips, but I think this one is going to be very close. I think the Zips take it at the end. Obviously, Arizona's a 4-seed for a reason. They've had a very successful season. I like the Zips a little more in this one, though.
I agree. The 6-11 matchup here is between the BYU Cougars out of the Big 12 and the A-10 champions VCU Rams. Nadiri, what's your take here?
I actually have VCU in this one. The Cougars, they just don't do it for me this year. I think VCU, they have the momentum. They're doing well. I think they're going to keep on rolling and roll past BYU.
Yeah, I think that'll be a really interesting game. But that A-10 championship was a fun game to watch.
So it was. I liked how physical VCU is when they get their rebounds. But I don't want to discredit BYU here. I do have VCU as well. But I think BYU can really keep this one close, obviously.
I think that game will be really interesting out of this region. In the next matchup, we have the 3-seeded Wisconsin Badgers taking on the Big Sky champions, the 14-seeded Montana Grizzlies. Ryan, does Wisconsin make it past the first round this year?
I do. I don't like Montana at all this year. I know this game is going to be in Denver, so it's going to be closer for those Montana fans to go down there. But I think Wisconsin, they've proven it this year. They have John Tonji, they have John Blackwell, they have Kamari McGee, Carter Gilmore, Stephen Crowell, Nolan Winter. Like, that offense is so stacked, and when Stephen Crowell's on, Stephen Crowell's on. But if he's off, then that whole offense is off. And I think, I mean, we saw they hung around with Michigan, and John Tonje didn't even have his best game. So I do like Wisconsin to make a pretty good run this year.
I agree. In the 7-10 matchup, we have the St. Mary's Gales taking on the Vanderbilt Commodores. Najiri, who do you have in this matchup?
I have the Veils. I think it'll be a close matchup, but I do think St. Mary's is going to have the edge here. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I like St. Mary's. I like their style of defense they play. They keep it slow-paced, and when you can throw an SEC team out of rhythm like Vanderbilt, I think St. Mary's can really take advantage of them.
In our final round one matchup in this region, we have the 2-seeded Alabama Crimson side taking on the 15-seeded Summit League champions, Robert Morris Colonials. Ryan, who was winning this final matchup?
It's Alabama. I mean, they've beat Auburn already this year in Auburn. Alabama, they can go anywhere and they can really run that score up.
I agree. Let's take a look at the bracket as we move into the round of 32. The 1-seeded Duke Blue Devils will take on the Mississippi State Bulldogs in our first matchup. Nadiri, who moves on?
I think Duke has it. By this point, you're hoping Cooper Flagg is back, and you're hoping the ankle injury doesn't linger too bad. And I think Cooper is going to be scary in March. He's the main event for a reason. He's going to show up. And Mississippi State, they're going to be overwhelmed by Cooper Flagg.
I agree. I think Duke.
Yeah, I mean, it's Duke.
In this next matchup, we have 5-seeded Oregon taking on 13-seeded Akron. Ryan, does Oregon stop Akron's run?
Yes, they do. I like Oregon in this one again. Like I said before, Biddle, Shellstad, that's your 1-2 punch. Dana Altman at the helm. I think Akron, they had a close one against Arizona, is what I'm predicting, and then I think Oregon takes this one kind of handily.
Nadiri, any thoughts on that one?
No, I mean, I agree. I do think if Oregon makes it, that they will beat Akron. And, you know, they do have a nice coach. They have a nice duo, so I do think that they'll be able to make it far if they get past Liberty.
The 3-seeded Wisconsin Badgers will take on the 11-seeded VCU Rams. Nadiri, does Wisconsin move on once again?
Wisconsin definitely moves on. You know what I mean? I think Wisconsin fans, they doubt Greg Gard, but I think Greg Gard has shown us this year that he can have his defining moment. And I think this is going to be his year in March this year. They have senior guard John Tonje. They have sophomore guard John Blackman. They have a deep team like Ryan was saying, and I think Wisconsin can cruise past VCU on this one.
I just don't see VCU being able to stop Crowell and Winter.
Yeah.
Like they have no bigs that can stop those two.
In our final round of 32 matchup, we have the 2-seeded Alabama Crimson side taking on the 7-seeded St. Mary's Gales. Ryan, who takes the last Sweet 16 spot in this region?
You know, I know we have St. Mary's going on, but I love Alabama this year. I love the way that they play basketball. I know St. Mary's plays an insanely weird style of defense. They're super slow on offense, but I think Alabama, if they don't get flustered early, that they can pull ahead and keep a lead against St. Mary's, but I wouldn't be surprised if St. Mary's does move on.
Yeah, Nadiri, what about you?
I mean, for me, I think the big thing with St. Mary's is right. Like you said, they play slow. They play a weird defense, and I think if they can control the pace, that they can beat Alabama for sure.
Yeah.
If Alabama plays Alabama basketball, they won't be stopped. But if St. Mary's can make them play their game, they're going to win in their game.
I agree. Moving into our Sweet 16 matchup, we have 1-seeded Duke taking on 5-seeded Oregon. Ryan?
I mean, a sprained ankle is going to linger, especially when it just happened, and he's not going to have like a full. I mean, he's got to have about a week to recover, right? He's gonna be doing everything he can to rehab and come back. But I think if Oregon can get Duke out of their system, I think Oregon has a real chance to go and beat Duke in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't buy too much into Oregon beating Duke. It's Duke. Cooper Flagg, there's no one in Oregon who can stop Cooper Flagg. We're banking on an injury lingering. That's Oregon's only chance. And in sports, you should never bet on an injury. I think that's one of the worst things that you can do. I'm going to bet on Cooper Flagg's health. I'm thinking that he's going to be healthy. Nobody in Oregon can stop him. I think Duke can go far, and I think that they can beat Oregon here for sure.
I think it'll be a really good game, though.
Yeah,
like, don't count me out. I think Cooper Flagg is a fantastic basketball player. I just like Oregon a little bit more later in the game.
Yeah, just going through the next couple matchups quickly, do you guys have Wisconsin or St. Mary's?
Wisconsin.
I got Wisconsin. I don't know. I think if St. Mary's can get Wisconsin out of their rhythm and St. Mary's can control this basketball game, I like St. Mary's to go on.
I think St. Mary's just by a little bit. And then moving on to the Final Four, do we have Oregon or St. Mary's punching that ticket?
I have Oregon. I think Oregon can really take advantage of the game, and if St. Mary's cannot catch up with Oregon, they play a slow offense, they're able to catch up to that Big Ten offense.
I will say, I think if St. Mary's is able to control the game against Alabama and Wisconsin, they would definitely be able to control the game against Oregon. And they'd be able to punch their ticket to the Final Four. I mean, if they do it all these rounds in a row, why would it stop now?
Next up, we will make our picks in the West and Midwest regions. Stay tuned on EWW TV.
Passion's love. Passion is love for what you do. Because I think when you face challenges, it comes down to how much you want it and how much you love it. Passion is what keeps you going forward. Seeing so many people that were like-minded and so hardworking in their sport and academics, being surrounded by like-minded people makes you want to be more passionate. I think it pushes you to a different level that maybe you didn't think you had. And you can do the best of both worlds and love all of it.
It's always been there, his love of the outdoors. Some days, you wonder if it might be his calling. Truth is, you know that the things he's passionate about today will build the foundation of what he does tomorrow, and possibly inspire a new journey. All he needs now is a way to make it happen. We are the universities of Wisconsin. 13 universities, unlimited opportunity.
Matt checking in to see how Sam is doing on his project, and it's getting close to exporting now, the final step in the process. And it is complete, and Sam is hyped. Finally gets complete and spikes the ball into the end zone. Sam's celebrating with his colleagues, and they throw a flag on the play. The ref's gonna call excessive celebration. Sam is in disbelief and can't believe it. He tries to dispute the call, but the ref is not having any of it.
Welcome back to PEOMIOSFYRDS. Moving into the bottom left portion of the bracket, let's talk about the West region, where our first matchup will be the 1-seeded Gators taking on the 16-seeded Norfolk State Spartans. Ryan, let's hear your thoughts.
I mean, Florida has played fantastic all year. They just won the SEC tournament. They won the SEC.
Yep.
And they're 1 seed for a reason. I don't see a 16 beating a 1 this year in any of the 4 regions, so Florida takes this one.
Yeah, I agree. In our 8-9 matchup, we have the 2-time defending champion Yukon Huskies taking on the Oklahoma Sooners. Nadiri, do the Huskies start their run?
I definitely think that UConn wins this one against Oklahoma. They're the 2-time defending champs for a reason. I will say they haven't had the strongest year, but I think that, I forget their coach's name, but I think that he's going to be
Dan Hurley.
Dan Hurley, yes. He's going to get them in check and make sure that they at least make it out the first round.
Yeah. In our 5-12 matchup, we have a battle of 2 conference champions. The American champion Memphis Tigers taking on the 12-seeded Mountain West champion Colorado State Rams. Ryan, who wins this one?
I like Colorado State in this 12-5. I mean, I think we're going to have at least one 12-5 upset, if not 2, but I like Colorado State. I know they average only 75 points per game, but they're shooting almost 50% from the field. They don't get as many offensive rebounds, but I think if they play physical, they can really rattle with this Memphis squad.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would have to disagree, right? I think March is all about defining players, right? A player making their defining moment. And Memphis has sophomore guard P.J. Haggerty. He averages 22 points, 6 boards, 4 assists. And I mean, Memphis is scoring about 80 points a game. I think if he goes off, I don't see anybody on Colorado State stopping him. And I think he can really, push Memphis far.
He's been a dog this year, I will say.
I think for me, like you were saying, we got to have at least one 12-5 matchup. It's March. I'm just going to go Colorado State. I think Memphis had a really good start to the year. They kind of declined a little bit into the middle of the year, and I think even though they won their title or their conference title, I think the American is kind of a lackluster conference.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I think the Mountain West had a couple more teams that were high-powered, so I think I'm going to take Colorado State to move on in this one. The 4-13 matchup will feature the Maryland Terrapins out of the Big Ten and the WAC champion Grand Canyon Antelopes. Nadiri, who's your pick in this one?
I definitely have Maryland. I mean, Maryland, they had a pretty nice Big Ten tournament as well. They made the semifinals. And, I don't really think Maryland's run is going to stop here. I think that they can actually go pretty far in March. So I think they'll definitely cruise past Grand Canyon.
Yeah,
I think the Crab 5 will take them pretty far.
Yeah. The 6-seeded Drake Bulldogs will take on the 11-seeded Missouri Tigers. Ryan, do you think there's an upset here?
I think 11-seeded Drake does upset Missouri. I mean, Drake, they're always giving problems in March. Bennett Sturts, he's Drake's guy.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, I like 11-6 to be the upset right now.
Yeah, I think Drake always is in this kind of realm, 10,
Yes.
11, 12, where they always kind of are on upset watch.
The Drakes need a win this year, definitely, for sure. So
Mm-hmm.
somebody got to put on for
Yeah,
Drake.
why not? In the 3-14 game, we have the Texas Tech Red Raiders taking on the UNC Wilmington Seahawks. Nadiri, who moves on to the round of 32?
Definitely got the Red Raiders here, right? Texas Tech is always one of those teams that can make a run, and I definitely don't think UNC Wilmington is going to stop it. You know, maybe Drake can stop it in the next round. Like we said, Drake needs to win badly. But I think Texas Tech has them here in the first round.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that
Yeah.
one. Texas Tech has looked really good this year.
In a battle of two legendary coaches, we have the 7-seed Kansas Jayhawks and the 10-seed Arkansas Razorbacks. Ryan, which legend moves on in this one?
I got Arkansas. I mean, don't discredit Kansas at all, though. It's Kansas versus Arkansas in this one. But Kansas is 7th seed for a reason. I can see them absolutely taking this game. I think Arkansas just has a little edge in this one near the end of the game.
I would disagree strongly. I think Kansas has Final Four potential.
Ooh.
Right? They have senior guard Zeke Mayo, who shoots 41% from the three-point line, and he has a deep bag. If you see him, he can shoot from far. They have senior guard DeJuan Harris, who's a great playmaker, one of the best playmakers in all of college, and they're not even their best players, right? They're led by Hunter Dickinson, who averages 17 and 10. I don't think anyone in Arkansas can stop that, and I do think that Kansas wins against Arkansas here.
Hunter Dickinson is fraud in March. He cannot show up in March.
He's definitely on fraud watch, but I will say, right, you have Zeke Mayo, you have DeJuan Harris, and Hunter Dickinson, right, he's on like his, 6th, 7th year in college. He has to have a good March eventually. Like, it's bound to happen.
Or because it hasn't happened, he's not gonna.
Yeah, I think for me, the X factor is Arkansas getting Boogie Flan back.
Yes.
He's a potential top 10 pick. He's fresh. He hasn't played in a while, so getting that fresh guy back I think will be big, and I think Arkansas takes it. I think it will be within a 5-point game, though. I think it'll be very interesting.
Yeah.
In our final matchup of round one, we have the Big East champion, 2-seeded St. John's squad going up against the Omaha Mavericks and the 15-seed. Nadiri, who's the last team to move on?
St. John's, 100%. There's not even a question here. St. John's are like that. You know, they have R.J. Lewis Jr. He's a great player, and I think that they're going to go very far. This team in the first round, they're definitely going to stop them.
I agree.
It's Rick Pitino.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, facts.
Let's take a look at the bracket before we move into the round of 32. In the round of 32, we have the 1-seeded Florida Gators battling the 8-seeded UConn Huskies. Ryan, does Florida get tested here?
I think they really do get tested here. I like Dan Hurley. I think UConn can really get an upset here on Florida. This matchup is definitely a toss-up, but I think I'll give the edge to Florida. They've played amazing basketball all year, but don't be surprised if Dan Hurley does. Dan Hurley and the Huskies do take this one, though.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, I do think that they get tested, but I think that they're going to pass that test.
Yeah.
They're going to ace the test. I think Florida moves past.
I think Florida just scores way too many points
Yeah.
for UConn, and that'll be the deciding factor. In our second matchup, we have the Maryland Terrapins as the 4-seed taking on the Colorado State Rams as the 12-seed. Nadiri, which team do you have here?
I mean, Colorado State, right, they're already making an upset that I don't really agree with, if we're being honest. But I do think if they make it here, it's going to stop here, right? Maryland has played well all year. Like Ryan said, they have the Crab 5, and I think they can definitely beat Colorado State. 100% right. That's my pick.
I think, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I already said the Crab 5 before. Get them to the Elite 8.
We have a 3-11 matchup here between Texas Tech and Drake. Ryan, what team books their Sweet 16 spot?
I like Drake in this one, but I don't know. I think the Red Raiders can really score some some points. They can have a really effective offense. I can see Texas Tech winning this one over Drake.
Nadiri?
I have Texas Tech over Jake as well. They have sophomore forward JT Toppin. He's a highly touted NBA prospect, and I think he's going to try to punch his lottery ticket as well. You know, lottery picks get paid a lot more money, so he has a lot on line in March. He's averaging 18 and 9, about 2 stocks a game. I think it'll be overwhelming for Drake.
I would just say, though, Drake can really make a Cinderella run this year. I like Bennett Sturts a lot, and I think maybe near the end of this game, he gets the best of the Red Raiders, though.
It'll definitely be an interesting matchup. In our final matchup, we have another legendary coaching battle as the Rick Pitino-led St. John's team will take on the John Calipari-led Arkansas squad. Nadiri, which coach will make yet another Sweet 16?
I think I have to go St. John's here. Like I said a little earlier, I have Kansas over Arkansas, and I think Kansas could beat St. John's, but I don't think Arkansas can beat St. John's, right? They have R.J. Lewis Jr., and they have a great coach, right? When you put those two people together, they're going to be very overwhelming for Arkansas, and I think that St. John's has it for sure.
I would agree.
I think St. John's defense is just going to be too much for.
Yes.
Before we move into the Sweet 16, let's take a look at the teams we had advancing. Our first matchup in the Sweet 16, we have the 1-seeded Florida Gators taking on the 4-seeded Maryland Terrapins. Ryan, does Florida continue their run here?
I think Florida does. I think this is where Maryland's bench doesn't show up. I think the Crab Five is really tired by this point. I mean, in March you are playing games back to back to back with like a day of rest, and I think Florida can just roll past Maryland on this one. This one might be like not even close.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think Maryland, their wheels, they fell off in the Big Ten tournament eventually, and I think it's bound to happen in March Madness as well. And I think Florida is a much better team than who they face in the Big Ten tournament. So I think it can get ugly, like Ryan said.
Yeah, especially like Ryan was saying, the fatigue of Maryland and the amount of points that Florida can score. I think it'll be really interesting. In our final Sweet 16 matchup in this region, we have the 11-seeded Drake Bulldogs on a Cinderella run taking on the 2-seeded St. John's team. Nadiri, does Drake continue their run, or does it finally end here?
You know, they're on a Cinderella run, but the hill fell off, and the prince did not find the prince did not find Cinderella. I'll tell you that much. It must have gave it to one of the stepsisters or something. St. John's is winning this one 100%. That defense, right, Drake can't do anything against the defense. And I've been talking about the guard, R.J. Luis Jr. He's going to have his moment in March, I guarantee it.
Yeah, Rick Pitino's going to pull out the white suit for this one. They're winning.
The Elite Eight is set. Let's take a look at the two teams that will be booking their spot in the Final Four. Ryan, who wins the final West region matchup between the 1-seeded Florida Gators and the 2-seeded Rick Pitino-led St. John's Red Storm?
I really like Rick Pitino and his St. John's Red Storm squad here. I think this can be a very, very high-scoring game, or it could even be low-scoring. I mean, we can see both these offenses go cold, but I think St. John's gets the best of Florida on this one.
What do you think, Nadir?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, they say defense wins championships. We know St. John's has a phenomenal defense. Yeah. If there's one thing that can stop a great offense, it's a great defense.
I think the defense is going to reign supreme there. The Big East champion St. John's Red Storm will move on to the Final Four out of the West region. Let's take a look at how we got to this point. Our fourth and final region will be the bottom left portion of the bracket. The Midwest region starts out with a matchup between the 1-seeded Cougars and the 16-seeded SIUE Cougars. Nadiri, let's start with you in this region.
I will say, right, the BYU Cougars, they got eliminated earlier, but I think the Houston Cougars are the better Cougars. You know what I mean? So I do have Houston winning. They're the best Cougars in this bracket. I have them going pretty far.
Yeah. I think Houston just plays too good of a. They're the 1 seed for a reason.
Yep.
100%.
The 8-9 matchup in this region is a battle between the WCC champion Gonzaga Bulldogs and the Georgia Bulldogs. Ryan, who wins this Bulldog battle?
I think the WCC champs and the Zags do pull this one off. I can see Gonzaga making a run in this one if they get hot at the right point. Gonzaga is always one of those teams that, like, if they're hot, they're going to go far. If they're cold, then I can see maybe winning one game and being eliminated. So,
Yeah.
But I like the Zags over Georgia on this one.
Yeah, Georgia's a very odd SEC team.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
They're good or bad, so we'll definitely see. I do have Gonzaga taking that one, though, by a slight edge. The next matchup will feature the 5-seeded Clemson Tiger and the 12-seeded McNeese State Cowboys. Nadiri, will the 12-seed beat a 5-seed once again?
I think so. You know, you guys, like we said, there's going to be 1 to 2 matchups, and I think the 2 matchups are Liberty over Oregon and McNeese over Clemson, right? I think Clemson.
Don't press the buttons right now.
You know,
just keep going.
I'm trying to talk about it. You're distracting me.
Oh my gosh.
You know, but Clemson SEC team. There's a little too many SEC teams. Some of them are bound to take L's, and I think McNeese is bound to smack Clemson right in their, smack them.
Yeah, I think McNeese, they've got that vibe this year. I wouldn't count out Clemson though. I mean, they made the tournament for a reason, but I think McNeese they pull this one out.
March Madness is all about vibes.
It
McNeese
is.
definitely has the vibe.
Yeah.
I agree. The 4-13 matchup will feature last year's runner-up Purdue Boilermakers as they take on the High Point Panthers. Ryan, can Purdue make yet another run?
No, they cannot. I have High Point in this one. High Point has just been, they're just like one of those mid-majors that I don't want to play in March. They've had a phenomenal year. And Purdue, literally their only offense comes from Braden Smith dishing passes or the occasional layup. I think Purdue is going to get bounced in the first round.
Nadiri?
I mean, I'm riding High Point. I'm riding High Point very far. I'll tell you that much.
You're high on High Point?
I'm high on High Point.
There we go.
You know, they're going to smack Purdue. Purdue's been on fraud watch all the time.
Yes.
And they don't even have Zach Edey anymore, so they're super fraud watch now. Let's go High Point.
Another Big Ten team is in action in our next matchup, as the 6-seeded Illinois Fighting Illini will take on the winner of the final play-in game between the Texas Longhorn and the Xavier Musketeers. Nadiri, who do you have winning those 2 games?
I I got to go with Xavier here, Musketeers. Pretty cool name. We got to go off vibes. And the vibes don't really matter that much because we know Illinois is going to win. They're the Fighting Illini. The Big Ten is very good this year, and they're going to show why they're one of the best in the Big Ten.
I think Illinois moves on if they hit their threes. They got to hit the threes. That's the only way they're going to really score. I agree with your Xavier pick. I think Texas has not been a great team this year. But I think Xavier can beat Illinois. Texas cannot beat Illinois.
Yeah, I totally agree with the three-point thing. I think if Illinois can hit their threes, I have them moving on.
Yeah.
In our 3-14 matchup, we have the Kentucky Wildcats taking on the Troy Trojans. Ryan, can Mark Pope lead this Kentucky team to a round one win in his first season as a coach?
I think he can. I think the Blue Bloods move on here with the Kentucky Wildcats. I don't see Troy giving them really any problem in this one.
I don't see. I think Mark Pope and Kentucky dominate that game.
100%.
The UCLA Bruins, who come in as a 7 seed, will take on the Utah State Aggies in the 10 slot. Nadiri, who do you have winning this one?
You know, it pains me to pick against the Big Ten, but UCLA is kind of like a fake Big Ten team anyway.
Yeah.
So Utah State, they're in the Mountain West. They did well in the Mountain West. They have Ian Martinez. He averaged 17 points. He's a great guard. I think the Mountain West and Utah State, they have this one for sure.
Yeah, I mean you're getting six rebounds from Mason Falsey, your guard. I think Utah State, they can just blow past UCLA here. I mean UCLA they've not been consistent all year.
And their last game was when Wisconsin hit 19 threes on them. So
Exactly.
It's hard to come
they got to
back.
guard the three.
It's hard to come back from that.
Yep.
In our final round one matchup, we have the Tennessee Volunteers in the 2 slot taking on the Wolford Terriers in the 15 seed. Ryan, who's the final team going to the second round?
I think this Tennessee. I don't see a 15 beating a 2 in any of these matchups this year. I like Tennessee to do this one. I think they played a little underwhelming basketball in the SEC championship against Florida. But I think Tennessee can just roll past Wofford.
Yeah, I agree. Before we make our picks for the round of 32, let's take a look at the matchups. Our first matchup is the 1 seed Houston taking on the 8 seed Gonzaga. Nadiri, does the 1 seed go to the Sweet 16?
I actually don't have that right. I really do like Gonzaga. They have senior guard Khalif Battle, 13, 4, and 2. They have senior guard Ryan Nimhard, 11 and 10 assists. And like some of the Kens, neither of them are the best player. The best player is Graham Ike. He averages 17, 8, and 60% from the field. You know what I mean? I think Gonzaga is going to be overwhelming for the Cougars.
Yeah, Nemhard he's a beast with the basketball. He can score, he can dish. I mean, 10 assists is crazy.
Wow.
But I like the Cougars in this one. I think they're a 1 seed for a reason. They played basketball this year at a really high level. So
I also think Houston's slow tempo is going to have some team struggle.
Yeah.
We have a battle of double-digit seeds in our next matchup as a 12-seeded McNeese State takes on the 13-seeded High Point. Ryan, which double-digit seed goes to the Sweet 16?
I mean, like I said earlier, I'm high on High Point. So, I mean, I like High Point in this one. I think Justin Bodo, that's their guy, right? High Point has just been a team all year I don't want to face. That's a mid-major I think is going to go far in this one.
Nadiri, what do you think?
I mean, there's not too much that me and Ryan agree about. We argue a lot on the show, but we're both high on High Point.
Yep.
I'll give them that much, you know. I have senior guard DeMarion Williams as my impact player. He averages 14, 3, and 2, and he shoots 47% from the field, but 40% from 3. I mean, if you're shooting like that in college, you're going to be dangerous. High Point is a mid-major you don't want to face, and McNeese can't handle them. You know?
Yep.
The Kentucky Wildcats will take on the Illinois Fighting Illini in a 3-6 matchup. Nadiri, who takes this one in your opinion?
I got to go with Kentucky here, right? Kentucky, they're a blue blood, they're a big team, and they have senior guard Otega Owe, 16, 5, and 2. I mean, he's going to be hard to stop. He shoots 49% from the field. He can score on about all at 3 levels. I mean, Kentucky's going to go far here.
Yeah, always one of these guys that can just take over in March. So
100%.
I think Kentucky rolls past Illinois if Illinois makes it.
Our final round 2 matchup will be between the 2-seeded Tennessee Volunteers and the 10-seeded Utah State Aggies. Ryan, who is the final team headed to the Sweet 16?
I don't like how Tennessee played in the SEC championship. I mean, I know it's Florida, right? And Florida is a very hard team to play. I just like the Aggies. I think the Aggies are going to pick up a little dust from Cinderella's shoe, and they're going to run with that. And I think that gets them to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, Nadiri?
Yeah, I think the Prince might find the right center this time, put it on the right foot. I think Utah State has it here for sure.
All right. It'll be interesting to see. Before we make our Sweet 16 picks, let's take a look at the past so far. Our first Sweet 16 matchup is between the 1-seeded Houston Cougars and the highest seed remaining, the High Point Panthers. Nadiri, does the Cinderella run continue for the Panthers?
You know, I'm going to say this right. The Prince is going to take the shoe off of Utah State, and he's going to put it on High Point, and High Point's going to walk into that ball, and they're going to go crazy. High Point is going to beat the Cougars here, right?
Yeah.
That's my pick. They're going to be the doubles, the seed that goes far, the 13th seed that goes far. High Point's going far.
Yeah, there's always a big guy in March that takes over. That's going to be Justin Bodabella. He's 7 foot 240. He's an absolute dog, and he's going to dog on these Cougars.
For sure.
We're still high on High Point.
I'm still high on High Point.
The highest.
For the final Sweet 16 matchup, we have the Kentucky Wildcats taking on the Utah State Aggies. Ryan, do we get 2 double-digit seeds in the Elite Eight?
I don't think so. I like Kentucky in this one. I think that's where the Aggies run ends. But I think the Aggies keep it close. I think Utah State can really keep it close. And I think Kentucky I think they end up just winning this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think Utah State, they're going to be walking up the stairs at the ball, and their heel's going to break. The Cinderella stone's going to go over.
step.
They're going to fall down the stairs. Kentucky's going to stomp them out at the end. Like we said, always one of those players that can go crazy in March. I definitely have Kentucky winning here.
Let's take a look at the 2 final teams in the Midwest region. Nadiri, who's your pick to go to the Final Four? Mark Pope in his first year as head coach at Kentucky, or does High Point become the highest seed ever to make the Final Four?
It really pains me to say this. I might cry because I'm the highest on High Point. But it's going to be tough for me because I think Kentucky wins here, right? We have Owe, and he's one of those players that's going to be hard to stop in March, High Point, they're a phenomenal mid-major, but Kentucky's a phenomenal blue blood, and there's a difference in March.
There's always a guy to take over in March, and it's going to be Owe. It's going to be Owe. So.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see that. The Final Four is officially set. Coming up after the break, we will go in-depth to each team before making our picks to go to the title game. Stay tuned to PEOMIOSFYRDS.
Have you heard of UROC?
We're part of Whitewater and our own thing.
Come on, we'll show you.
I learned how to be a college student here, and now I'm headed off to Madison to study global health, and I know I'm ready.
People like me who aren't a fan of big crowds would really like UROC because it's welcoming and it's laid back.
My advisor helped me figure out my schedule, organize my time, fill out my FAFSA, and figure out what classes I liked and how to turn that into a major. And if I had to do it again, I would choose UROC.
You ready to rock? You belong here.
The Wisconsin Intercollegiate Athletic Conference. We're here to compete, to inspire, to grow, and to make history. We are rooted in tradition. For over a century, we have contended as the premier conference within Division III.
I shot the ball!
We are united throughout Wisconsin. All 8 of our full-time member institutions are based in our great state. But although Wisconsin is our home, our impact reverberates across the entire nation, crowning 180 national team championships and counting. Our mission is to shape student athletes who excel academically and athletically, equipped to become leaders in life. We are here to build on our enduring legacy and move boldly forward into the future. We are the WIAC, Excellence in Action.
I'm Zach Mears, and this is The Insider on UWTV. On March 5th, UW Whitewater senior guard Casey Carollo was named Wisconsin Intercollegiate Athletic Conference Player of the Year. This makes Carollo the second Warhawks player in the last 4 seasons to receive the WIAC Player of the Year award, as her former teammate Aaliyah Grandal was named the league's Player of the Year the previous 3 seasons. This season, Carollo has been ranked number 1 in the conference in various stat categories such as scoring, rebounds, assists, steals, and free throws. She also ranks top 10 in other statistics this season, which include total playing time, along with both field goals made and 3-point field goals made. Success continues to fly high for Carollo, as the integrated business and science major would also earn the WIAC Women's Basketball Judy Krussman Scholar Athlete Award, as she has a great point average of 3.9. Carollo's 4-year span with the Whitewater women's basketball team has led to a conference tournament championship this season, 2 WIAC championships in both 2022 and 2023, 3 NCAA tournament appearances, becoming a 4-time All-WIAC honoree and a 3-time All-Defensive Team honoree. Carollo also ranks first in career rebounding, second in career points, and fourth in career assists in UW-Whitewater women's basketball team history, making her the only player in the team's history to have at least 1,500 points, 800 rebounds, 300 assists, 200 steals, as well as 50 block shots. With all these accomplishments, the Warhawk star has not only pulled off a remarkable 2024 season, but also one of the best 4-year spans of all time for the Lady Warhawks. I'm Zach Mears, and this has been The Insider on UWW-TV.
She's always had it. Pure ambition. An unbridled self-confidence that most people only dream of. You see it driving her, empowering her, and in time, you see it fueling her future. Perhaps even helping her blaze a new trail. All she needs now is a way to make it happen. We are the Universities of Wisconsin. 13 universities. Unlimited opportunity.
Proportion to me is the lived experience of our Division III student athletes. They balance life from an academic perspective and the rigors of competing at a high level, bonding with teammates and building lifelong friendships. But they also are involved in their communities. They work jobs and internships and volunteer. They've learned to be resilient. Diverse experiences are setting them up for the future.
Sports fans, we cheer on our favorite teams at fields, gyms, arenas, and stadiums. But have you ever wondered what it's like to be a referee? Verbal abuse from fans, parents, and coaches is the #1 reason why many referees are walking away. And they're not being replaced quickly enough by new ones. So put yourself in the official shoes, act with respect, and be officially human.
Welcome back to the show. Let's take a look at the bracket after determining our Final Four. Out of the South region, we have the 2-seeded Michigan State Spartans taking on the 2-seeded St. John's Red Storm, who won the West region. On the other side of the bracket, we have the 5-seeded Oregon Ducks out of the East region taking on the 3-seeded Kentucky Wildcats, who won the Midwest. Nadiri, let's start with the left side of the bracket. Who wins the battle between Tom Izzo and Rick Pitino?
I mean, I think this is going to be a hard one, right? Because both these teams are phenomenally coached, right? So I think it's going to come down to whose players can show up more in the big moments, right? We have R.J. Luis Jr., junior guard, 6'7" for St. John's. On the other side, we have 6'3", freshman guard, Jace Richardson. Who's the bigger threat? And I think Jace Richardson is Tom Izzo's weapon next, right? I think Tom Izzo, in my personal opinion, is the better coach. And I think Jace Richardson is bound to have his defining moment in March. I have Michigan State beating St. John's and have it being because of Jace Richardson.
He's spitting facts over here, what can I say?
Ryan, let's go to you with the next game with 5-seeded Oregon Ducks taking on the 3-seeded Kentucky Wildcats.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be another amazing matchup. I love Owe for Kentucky. I love Biddle for Oregon. I love the fight more in this Oregon team. I mean, we saw them come back from how much down against Wisconsin. And Wisconsin is a very good team in this tournament. I know Oregon can be streaky, but you don't always get the best suited teams in the Final Four. And there's usually an underdog, someone that gets hot at the right time. As we said, Oregon is 8-2 in their last 10, with those 2 losses being to our pick, Michigan State, to reach the championship game. So I think Oregon does get the best of the Blue Bloods here by the Kentucky Wildcats.
Yeah, I think this game will be interesting because you have the Big Ten, who's a powerhouse conference. I mean, you look at Wisconsin's loss to Penn State, that was still a Quad 2 loss. And Penn State was the final team to reach the Big Ten tournament. But for Kentucky, I mean, they were playing ranked team after ranked team in the SEC. So I think it'll be interesting. A guy that I looked at for Kentucky was Kobe Brea. He's shooting 44% from 3 and 91% from the free throw line. Like, that's a dude that could be dangerous. But like you were talking about, Nate Biddle obviously is a really good player. I think TJ Bamba is another guy that could wreak havoc. He averages 10.4 points, almost 4 rebounds and 3 assists. He also almost gets 2 steals a game. I think Kentucky could honestly struggle a little bit driving against Bamba and then having Biddle just standing there in the paint. I mean, and like we were talking about earlier, Biddle is just a dog. I also saw something that I think Nate Biddle shoots, 82% from the free throw line. You don't get that a lot from a 7-foot guy. I mean, it'll be tough.
Especially not in college.
Yeah, I know. Biddle's he's a strong guy, and I think he's someone that can really take over this tournament.
Yeah, and I think going back to the Michigan State game, I think it'll be interesting because you have Tom Izzo's offense going against Rick Pitino's defense, and St. John's defense is really, really good. But I think for something Michigan State will have to focus on is shooting the three. Yeah. They struggle to shoot the three a little bit, but as we've been talking about, obviously, Jace Richardson is that X factor. He's a freshman guard, so it'll be interesting to see kind of where can he be the X factor? Is he going to pass the ball? Is he going to shoot the ball? But yeah, I think it'll be very interesting to kind of see these two, a lot of good guards in this Final Four, like we were talking about. I think each team kind of has their one X factor guy. And with that, the national championship game is set. Let's take a look at the bracket one more time before we talk about the end of the big dance. In a battle of the Big Ten teams, the three of us have chosen the Michigan State Spartans and the Oregon Ducks to be the final two teams standing. Let's go over the paths each of these teams have taken, starting out with the Spartans. In round 1, they took on Bryant. Round 2, they beat the New Mexico Lobos. Their Sweet 16 matchup was the Iowa State Cyclones. In the Elite 8, they battled Texas A&M, and their Final Four matchup was St. John's. Focusing on the Spartan, who do you think a guy is that carried this team throughout the year, and what brought them this far in the bracket? Ryan, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it all show. It's Jace Richardson. That he's a youngster. I think he's the X factor for Michigan State, but I think the bigger X factor is their coach and Tom Izzo. I like Tom Izzo's edge and how they've gotten here. I know they didn't have a great showing in the Big Ten tournament, but that's just only setting them up for success for this March Madness run.
Yeah, Nadir, anything that stood out with you looking at the Spartan team?
I mean, I think we said it all show. I've been saying all show. Jace Richardson, right? And I think Jace Richardson, right? I think he's a freshman that's able to be coached really well.
Yes.
And I think a big part of that is because his dad was in the NBA, right? Jason Richardson was able to, bring him to a coach that he thought could put him in the right position. I think they really trust Tom Izzo. And I think when you find a freshman guard that trusts their coach and doesn't just want to transfer out at the first sign of adversity, that's when you can go really far. And I really trust Jace Richardson can take them really far.
He's a youngster, so he's going to bring the energy. And then you have he's coachable, like you said, with Tom Izzo, who's one of the greatest coaches I've ever seen.
Yeah, 100%.
Now let's get into the Oregon Ducks. Their path to the title game started against Liberty. Round 2, they took on Akron before upsetting number 1 seed Duke in the Sweet 16. In the Elite 8, they beat St. Mary's before beating Kentucky to move on to the national championship. Nadiri, what's the story with Oregon? How'd they make this run?
I think they just got lucky a lot. I don't really know. In my bracket, they didn't make it this far. When we were meeting about this before, they didn't make it this far. But I kept getting outvoted. So, I think Oregon took a lot of L's. But, in this hypothetical world that we live in with you two, they won a lot of games, and they're able to win a lot of these games because of their phenomenal offense, like you said, right? They had the Biddle guy, they had the Bamba guy, they had the Still Said guy. They're able to go pretty far. I mean, what do you think, Ryan?
I think you're a Wisconsin homer. I'm just kidding. But Oregon has been really aggressive when they press. When they're playing tight, they average 7.2 steals per game. They're averaging just 2 points under what Michigan State is averaging in 76. Michigan State's averaging 78 points per game. They're shooting about the same percentage. They shoot better from the three-point line. Granted, Michigan State is not a very good three-point shooting team. I think they're decent, but they're not great. I think Oregon, if they get hot, they can go on a run. And their defense can shut down an offense like we saw them shut down Wisconsin a couple weeks ago, and we saw them go on that massive run to come back and win it. So I think Oregon really, if they can get control of this game, be aggressive, stay aggressive, they have a shot.
Yeah, I think the story for me is the legendary coaches. We've talked about Rick Pitino, John Calipari, Bill Self, all these legendary coaches. Dana Altman could put himself up there if he makes it all the way to the national championship game. And if he does beat Tom Izzo, I think that cements him. Obviously, this is their first year in the Big Ten. I think that'd be a really important win for them. When we come back, we'll present our final thoughts for this week's episode. Stay tuned.
We'd love to show you what it's like to be a Warhawk.
Come on!
Don't miss out on your chance to be a Warhawk
at UW Whitewater.
You belong here!
You can see it. His potential, that is. You see it even when he may not. you see that the things that spark his interest today will in time ignite the things he pursues tomorrow, and ultimately help him reach new heights. All he needs now is a way to make it happen. We are the Universities of Wisconsin. 13 universities, unlimited opportunity.
UWW-TV has been an important part of the campus and community since 1980.
Not only providing on-air learning opportunities for broadcast journalists and electronic media production students,
but educating and entertaining our audiences with award-winning news, live sports coverage, original programming,
as well as dedicating the mission to developing creative collaborations throughout campus.
For more information, visit our website and like us on Facebook.
Check us out because you got to see what's on UWW-TV.
Sports fans, we pack stadiums, arenas, and local gyms every day. And every sports fan is uniquely human. Seeing each play with your own eyes, triggering your own emotions. And as humans, we won't agree on every call, but we can act with empathy and consideration. So put yourself in the official shoes. Be more than a fan. Be officially human.
Welcome back to PEOMIOSFYRDS. Let's give our final thoughts for this week's episode, which for this episode will be our national championship pick. Nadiri, who wins the battle of the two Big Ten teams?
You know, I think this one is a hard one, right? Michigan State, they're just putting that belt on Oregon all year, right? And I don't even think Oregon's going to make it this far. But I'll say one thing, right? If they make it this far, they didn't come this far just to come this far. Okay, the Oregon Ducks, if they make it to the national championship, they're going to beat Michigan State 100%, right? You don't lose to a team 3 times in 1 year, especially not in basketball, right? You know, I will say, they lost pretty handily, but what is Oregon good at, guys? Making comebacks. They were able to come back and beat Wisconsin. And who did Wisconsin beat? Michigan State. Yeah. So if they can come back and beat Wisconsin, they can come back and they can beat Michigan State when it matters the most. You know, I'm going to flip it here. I got Oregon Ducks winning it all.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you up until you have that they beat the same team 3 times. You know, this is where I switch up, you know, just throwing a wrench in this whole show. But I think Michigan State has really dominated Oregon this year. They won by 12 in the regular season at home. And then the Big Ten tournament, they whooped them and won 74-64. So I think they really meet their maker here. And I think Tom Izzo gets the best of Dana Altman. I think Chase Richardson just goes over the top. I think Michigan State does enough down low against Biddle. But I think watching Richardson and Shellstad, I think it's going to be a great matchup, but I think Michigan State takes this one.
Yeah, I think that'll be a battle of Jace Richardson versus Nate Biddle. I think both could score 30-plus easily. I think this could be a rare, high-scoring Big Ten matchup. But like you were saying, you beat a team 2 times in the regular season for a reason. I think that Michigan State would. I think this game would be a lot closer. I think it'd be within the 5 to 8 region points-wise, but like we were talking about, you obviously have that X factor, Jace Richardson. Tom Izzo standing on one sideline. I just think it'd be difficult for Oregon to have that in the back of their mind that they got whooped twice in a row, and then just kind of.
I think that would be a chip on their shoulder, though. No.
I don't know. I just think Michigan State still has the edge there. That will do it for us here tonight. Thank you for watching our March Madness special, and this has been Please Excuse Our Momentary Interruption of Sports from the Irregular Daily Schedule on UWW-TV.